I've got a few hours before my flight to Vegas, and I'm finishing up my talk. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do this live. I really wanted to, and I much rather prefer doing these talks live. So what is this talk about? What's this point that you're sitting here watching this video? Well, hopefully, if we get things right, you're going to figure out how to take one protocol, catch it, demodulate it, replay it, and get it to trigger another RF protocol on a completely different frequency. I'm talking about the key fob, the thing that you use every day that sits in your pocket that has multiple security protocols that they put in place. I'm not going to teach you how to steal cars today, but I am going to teach you how to understand the process that is used to protect them and how multiple frequencies cross over each other to be able to manipulate each other. And that's what we're going to do. But before we move too far, I want to say a couple things. The only reason I'm able to do talks like this is because of guys like Mike Walters, the individual behind Inspectrum, Mike Osmond, the individual who brought software-defined radios to the forefront for individuals like myself, Jay Boone, maker of the Portapak. And by the way, if you're buying the cheap knockoffs of either the Hack RF or the Portapak, stop. Get the real thing. One, they work better, and two, those individuals put the time in to do it right. An Iceman, if you're doing anything in the RFID world, you should probably know who he is, and if he isn't, you're probably behind the times. I recommend you follow him. He's incredible. Some of his stuff we'll be talking about as well, because we're going to be talking about 125 kilohertz all the way up to some of the VHF bands. Matt Knight, another individual who's just been huge and instrumental in helping me learn. Tim Kay, you probably know him from the dog collar challenges of the past, an incredible individual. All the guys at SensePost, they were actually the first people that introduced me to cyber when I was still living in my previous life. Darren and Shannon, who were just incredible people and allowed me to be on Hack 5 and did so much for helping me learn before I even knew what a hacking convention was. Both of them were and are incredible individuals. The RF Hacker Sanctuary, let's face it, that's the reason that we're all here right now, and the work that they do is incredible, and please make sure you're giving shout outs to them and that you're supporting their cause. And I know I'm going to mess up the name, but Jopo, I mean, who doesn't enjoy watching a video that starts out, "My fellow hackers"? He does an incredible job with Universal Radio Hacker, and we will dig fairly deep into that during this talk. Another one is Erwin Reed, who is one of the members with the Mayhem firmware that you use for your Portapaks. Absolutely incredible stuff coming out of them. I don't know some of these individuals. Most of them I do. There's a handful that I don't. But the person that I also want to reach out to is Marco402, one of the people who keeps up with the RTL 433. We will be covering that. These are the tools that you should be playing with if you're playing in the RF world. These are the tools and the software and the things that are out there that can make you do some incredible things. So I'm not saying that I'm going to do anything incredible, but I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to show you some fun things you can do that will get you thinking and moving into new areas to hopefully find some of your own 0 days for the first time and some of your own exploits. And on top of that, it's just fun. And most people have access to a vehicle of some kind or another. 125 kilohertz signal. When it sends that other 125 kilohertz signal, which is typically in the center column, your vehicle sends that to the key fob. The key fob then sends a message that says, okay, go ahead and start. It sends that at its normal frequency. Now, because we're doing this, the vehicle will then receive that signal. It says, okay, I've challenged, you've replied, and it will allow you to start. But what if? What if we could demodulate this signal? Well, those of you that have done some of my challenges in the past know you can, and we're going to show you again how to do it. But is it the same signal? Well, we're going to find out. But what if we could capture this signal at 125 kilohertz and replay it? Do you think we could make this key fob talk again? Well, most vehicles use a rolling code. Rolling code means that if I see the same signal twice, I'm not supposed to listen to it and I'm not supposed to respond to it. Do key fobs listen for rolling code when they receive a signal from a vehicle before they send out their normal frequency, which is 315, 433, 868, or the 900 bands for key fobs? These are some of the things that we're going to look into. Now, one of the first things we have to do is be able to understand if we're getting the same message or if the message actually changes. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to look at URH. We're going to look at RTL 433, and we're going to figure out how do we demodulate and get this information from this key fob. And then once we do that, can we use some of our normal software-defined radios to actually capture and replay 125 kilohertz? And then can we do it with the Proxmart? And what's the difference and what information do we get? Noise. So I'm going to delete all the noise. I'm going to start with 0.00. Let's just give it a whirl and say 6. Again, our Y scale will let us make this bigger. All right, that would probably work, but I want to refine that down a little bit more. Let's try 2 and see how that does. That's pretty good. And now I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, can you auto detect and tell me if you find anything? Now when it auto detects, it's going to try to figure out what's going on here. Okay. Now, I'm not good at reading binary, but I like hex. Okay. So I can start looking to see if I can read the hex off of this. Okay. So if I'm having trouble with the hex, I can go ahead and say, hey, auto detect, see what you see. All right. Let's go to the demod view. I'm going to make this a little smaller. Oh, it looks like this is a little high. In the auto detect, it was actually trying to read this top layer where if we look here, notice we have high points, we have low points. By scrolling my mouse, I can actually bring this in and out and be able to see a little bit cleaner. And I can try to make sure that what I'm seeing is nice and clean. And that will really help me. Now if I hit auto, it tries going up again, so I come here. Now, this is one of the really nice things about Universal Radio Hacker, right? We can go in here, we can look at it, we can clean it up. You can also come down here and move some of your filtering averages. And this is going to help you be able to look and really see what's going on, right? Now, when I look at this, the auto detect is trying to tell me that there's 20 samples per symbol. So let me dig in here and see if we can find something like a preamble, right? Oh, we have 2 signals. We have a signal, then another one, and that seems to be consistent. Oh, and look how consistent these are. So I'm going to go ahead and just see roughly how wide this is. It's about 250. All 5s. For a preamble, that makes me feel pretty good. Okay, let's go up to analysis. Now, on the analysis tab, you notice that we have all this information going on. Both the signals we got are being represented. I don't want the signal that did not use the bandpass filter. The bandpass filter basically says I'm only looking at this information, this noise, nothing above or below this frequency, and it really cleans things up. So if I click here, now I only have to look at this. So if I highlight all these, let's look at some of our decoding. Now, I know that Ford is notorious for using Manchester 2. Okay, so now if I go to hex and I look at this, I can see that we have all zeros up here. So this one right here is probably kind of a bad catch, because after that we have all F's, skip, all F's, skip, all zeros. Okay, so fairly consistent in what we're getting there. And let's see, FFE, that's E3059, 3059. Okay, now I'm in kind of a unique situation because I deal with this all the time and I work with these, so I know that what I'm looking at here isn't too bad. We're looking pretty good. It doesn't seem too bad, and we're getting some of the key fob identifiers in here. I have the ability to actually look into my vehicle and know what the identifiers are because of some of the techniques that I use. So right now, off the top, looking, okay, I'm not feeling too bad. Now, if we came back here and we saw anything that we thought was a little quirky, what we can do is we could always clean it up a little bit. But right now, I feel okay with what we have, because the ones that matter to me are these ones. We have our preambles, which is basically saying, hey, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, pushing through. We're using a Manchester encoding, but it's letting it know, hey, I'm getting ready to talk. And then we get a conversation and a conversation and a conversation. So because of that, I feel okay with what we have. I think we can move forward, and this lets me know that we're probably doing okay. Now, if you notice, we have a 0-2 right here at the 13 to 14. This is where I'm going to get my lock or my unlock feature. Well, if I have any idea what I'm talking about, then what that would mean is, if I were to come over here and say that I want to record another signal, right? I'm going to hit record, and now I'm going to press unlock, 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 lock, 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 unlock, unlock, stop. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Once I've saved it, it will go ahead and just get added to all the work we've already started to do. So now, here we have this right here. It's not real high off the baseline, and again, my center point, just like before, seems to be a little bit off. So let's go to our spectrum analyzer view. Okay, I'm going to make that small. I'm always going to make my FFT window small. That's just me. For me, it just seems easier. I scroll with my mouse, and now I'm able to come in here and look a little better. I come to my Y scale, I bring it up. I can change some of these parameters if I need to, just to make it a little cleaner if I wanted to. Okay. And now I just hold over where I want to look and I scroll. And I've got a really good look right here. All right. I highlight what I'm interested in. I apply my bandpass filter. And now when I come down, I'm going to go ahead and again change this to 0.005 we'll start with. Let's make that Y scale a little bigger. You know what? 001. You know what? I feel okay with that, so I'm going to go ahead and go to my demodulated view. See how it looks. Not horrible. Okay. Can make that a little smaller. Now, where you will run into problems is if any of these are hitting where you're starting to have multiple frequencies, which with some of these vehicles you will have that happen. So that's why sometimes you'll have some differences in what you see. So I feel pretty good with that. I'm going to go ahead. I'll tell it to try to auto detect. When I do that, you can see again it's trying to auto detect in the wrong place. So I put it back where I feel it's good. Change it to hex. Okay. Got that going. There we are. Now, one of the other things that I'll do when I look at this is if I think that there is a group of these that seem way too off, right? I'm going to up this a little bit. Okay, that all seems to be fairly centered. Let's look at our others. Okay, because occasionally you'll have some of these that are a little bit off and they can create an issue. Okay, so once we go through, we're able to see all those. Now we have the ability to come back over to the analyze, and I can pick just the ones that I want to see. Say, okay, hey, I just want to see those bottom ones, right, that came through. Now, again, when we come back here, it's still trying to put us at 20. So I change it to 250 and see what happens. That seems to be a little bit better, like we had before up higher. Okay. 555 4C. Yep, that's looking good. 65A. Yep, that's all looking much better. Now I'm going to highlight all of this and I'm going to switch it to Manchester 2. We are a little cleaner this time than we were before, and we're able to see that we've got E3059. Let's look at this one. Or E3059, E3, well, you know what? I wonder if there's any, I don't want to know about this right here. So I'm going to hide this top column. I want to know if any of these other columns, because we know that we have the preambles and we know that we had some issues with this. So why don't you mark the differences? And the protocol I care about is the one that has all of this listed out. So I hit mark. So that one's identical. We come down. This one's the exact same one, so it repeated itself. This one is exactly the same up to here. Up to 18, this is the same. Okay, good. Now as we start coming down, let's go to the very bottom one. And what we're able to see is that the very bottom one, we have everything the same until the 8. Now, as we move up, what we're going to see is 02, 01, 01, 01, 02. Do you remember when I was doing locks and unlocks? 01 and 02 at the 13 and 14 mark is where you get the distinction of lock versus unlocked. And by being able to distinguish that, we now know that we're able to start telling the lock and unlock sequence. We can start telling that there is a rolling code. We're able to also tell this preamble area here, or I'm sorry, this synchronization that seems to be the same. And as you dig in, what you would find if we had multiple key fobs is that this is where it synchronizes, and then this is where the actual key fob identifier starts, is from 5 to 12. you will actually get the key fob identifier. So if any of you are doing the challenges that I do, that might be of interest to you. So we're able to demodulate the key fob itself. Okay. Now we want to know, that was me pushing the buttons. What if we use something else to push the buttons? That's what we're going to do next.